Pleased to be joined by Chris Davis of KSDK News. How are you, Chris? Good to have you back.
I'm good. Happy to be on the Chris show this morning.
Yeah, Chris 3, baby. No, we were just talking about that. No Travis today. He's out because of the ice in North County. It was incredibly bad this morning. So no Travis Stroll, but we mentioned that, and I was like, yeah, it is my show today, isn't it? And then I was like, wait, Chris Gardner is. And then, Chris Davis also. 3 Chris's for your pleasure. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Be sure to hit share. Let's get some views up. Let's get Chris Davis the popularity he deserves. He's been covering a lot of things in the St. Louis area, a lot of interesting things as well. Gardner?
Yeah, and his career has already spanned a number of years.
Half a decade, actually.
Yeah.
And I'd just like to recognize that first before we get into anything with just a little happy 5-year
Oh my
anniversary.
gosh! Look, that guy's celebrating your 5-year anniversary behind you.
I love that picture. That's one of my favorite pictures. And I can't remember if we talked about this the last time I was on, but like, so after I saw this picture, because that was taken by one of our creative services people when we were in the Big Blues run, I posted the picture and I was like, I'd love to find this guy, and somebody like tagged him in it, and so we became Facebook friends. And then I found him again along the parade route when we had the Stanley Cup going down Market Street. So we're forever connected now.
You know what's so great? It's not just the guy in the background; it's the face you're making at the same time.
Right.
It's just kind of
That's my I've thrown it back, but they might still have me on TV, face.
Oh, I never thought of that.
Yeah.
That's an interesting little detail.
That's a guy who's almost 5 years in. Move.
So we had an interesting situation earlier in the Stanley Cup playoff run where we had so a lot of our live shots are run off of cell towers, and we had so many people downtown. We were kind of overrun by that, and so there was a particular situation where they were pouncing around in the control room trying to get to other shots, and they left my shot up for a good 15 seconds, and I kind of had to just kind of keep that standby face going, and that I got some Twitter love / comments on that. So
let's work on that, man. Let's try this. I'm going to go close up on Chris. So you throw it back to the studio. And then practice your face for I might be live.
Okay. Hang on, wait. Live from the Loop Trolley.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. I give you the sig out there. Live from the Loop Trolley, Chris Davis, 5 on your side.
Okay.
We're out.
And it always feels like an eternity, no matter how long it is. But you just have to kind of
you know what's good?
Like you're maybe listening to what they're saying next, or you're hoping they're saying something.
Yeah.
You have a slight head nod there.
Yeah, just a little bit. Yeah.
All right.
So,
assuming that Mike Bush and Ann Allred are saying something, well, and usually you can hear them too. But
see, I don't know if they teach this kind of stuff in all the broadcasting schools. These are what you learn on the job.
You do.
Okay, this is good to know for all you young broadcasters out there.
May I?
You want to try it yourself?
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Okay.
And in the end, it was a meteoric rise. Chris Denman, 5 on your side.
Oh, no. You're not good.
Seems a little forced, but I like where it is. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. I like the forced shot where there's somebody acting too hard. That is my favorite, though. If you think something's up. Sorry, Gardner.
Here would be mine.
Oh, go ahead.
Live from the Loop Trolley, Chris Gardner, 5 on your side. What the hell was Cusimano doing?
That's what we say after every live.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I would think, Gardner, I think you would get caught finally, lighten up a singer.
Forever.
And so I'm not incriminating anybody here, but at my last station, there was a guy that was quite the avid smoker. That there's one time I could see just a tiny little trace, he definitely was holding it low. Just couldn't wait till the end of the live shot. I was like, oh yep, that individual.
Was he a younger guy or older?
Older guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Older,
and also one of those guys that you really could never tell. The news director would probably try to tell him this is how you should spend your day, and he was going to do it however he wanted to anyway. One of those old dog.
Yeah. It's like trying to tell Mike Shannon how to do his job on the Cardinals broadcast.
One time we rolled up to he worked a specific area in Alabama, and he rolled up to a house fire just ripping a cig, and I was like, maybe not the time, but you didn't tell him what to do.
Know your audience.
Yeah, exactly.
From Yale Hollander in the comments, 5 was not on my side from the loop trolley. Their neighbor 1 channel down did have the decency to show for laugh tracks, however, and now look what happened. That has been an issue as of late. Before you even got to St. Louis, we thought the loop trolley was going to be done, man. Ope trolley, look out. What is the latest? We've seen Dr. Sam Page on Twitter a little bit. Yeah. We've seen some grants or some extensions happening. Where are we at with the latest at the Ope trolley?
So it is at least going to last through 2019. The kind of parenting board for the loop trolley has given them some money to be able to operate at least through the end of the year, but they still need I think it's, right around $500,000 for them to be able to pay their expenses for the next year, for 2020. So that money has not been paid. So they're only.
So that sounds like a lot of money to us. Is that a lot of money for a public, I guess, investment like the loop trolley is?
It's hard to tell, right? Like how many 2-mile, it's a hard comparison. Like, would that be a whole lot of money for the entire Metrolink system? Probably not. But it's also not serving a bi-state area. It's a much more condensed area. So it's a tricky situation. There's a lot of moving parts to it, right? Like the federal government has put more than $30 million into this project. So they have indicated that they do not want it to fail. But it's literally, I was on, the app Time Hop that shows you what you posted last year. They were talking about November 15th will be the year mark, so it hasn't even made it to the full year yet. So I think if we're talking about future, it seems like to me the most likely scenario is it would fall maybe into the Metrolink transit system under the Metro Transit bi-state agreement. How that would specifically work is not clear. I talked to Joe Edwards a few weeks ago, and he said that there was some sort of, they could not do that right away based off of some federal tax credits that they got. But
I feel like Joe Edwards' good quite clearly outweighs his bad overall if you're looking at the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
Do you feel like there was a mistake on his part at this one? I know he's looked at as the leaderhead, or figurehead, I should say, leader of whatever the committee is going on. But
there's no question that he has been the fiercest, proponent of this and has wanted it for a long time. Like you said, I mean, he is. I mean, he's had, almost all of his projects have been wildly successful. This one's still very early on. I don't. It's not for me to say whether this is right or wrong, but at the same time, I think there are a lot of people that are incredibly frustrated by all this, especially in an area that struggles with a lot of type of funding. Then to say, oh, but all of these resources from a federal and state and city level are going to this.
If your business, whether it was true or not, if you felt your business lost out or closed because of that, you're looking at that and going, $200,000 would have kept me open for 3 years.
Yeah, no, I when even well before the track opened, I did a story with one of the businesses there that was one of the ones that survived, but just barely. They were talking about how close it was. The whole frame of that story was, if this doesn't open in the next month like they say they are, we're probably done.
Yeah.
And so, and so you've seen a lot of turnover. Joe will continue to tell you, and he is a huge cheerleader and unabashedly so. But he will say that the trolley hasn't really been given the chance to show itself because it's not running full time. It's only Thursday through Sunday. They believe a third train car is the answer to their success because it'll let them do it more. But that's the problem. And here we are. They've had that train since last February in their possession, but they have had to work this long to be able to retrofit it to the system.
That's the issue for me, Chris. I think is.
Which Chris,
okay,
is confusing.
Chris is for everyone in the room is okay. That's fine. Why was it not brought to your attention ahead of time that it might not fit the track?
Perplexing is a nice way to put
it. You would hope that in any industry that you have somebody on staff that I don't want an airplane turbine that doesn't fit the plane. So
generally not a good thing.
Yeah, so I think there are a lot of questions to answer for that, and just kind of the structure for how this things work. There's not a lot of oversight.
Right.
You do have a loop trolley kind of controlling board, and then the loop trolley company itself. A lot of people kind of merge the two together, and maybe rightfully so, because it's all one big project. But there's not a whole lot of people that they have to answer to necessarily.
I do like how our friend Yale Hollander got creative with the trolley to do comedy on it.
Ton of press around it.
I mean, a lot of people were riding it then. And then, man, whoever did it, today, whatever they're doing with the loop trolley is also a creative way to put use to it. As you can see here, the loop trolley with a plow.
Oh, that's exciting.
It's going down Delmar. So good job. I mean, you got to find ways to create with this. I think you have to be creative with the loop trolley.
If you remember the original, and maybe this was foreshadowing, but the day it was supposed to open, it snowed and they couldn't run it.
I do
and they
remember.
did the big golden stake ceremony inside the pageant, I believe.
That's right. And then when it did start running, because there was an issue with something at one of the stops, I remember.
Yeah.
Then it got stopped near the History Museum because there was a crime scene.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot has happened.
It's clipped a lot of cars. You know, it has not been smooth sailing. You can say that pretty confidently.
That's what I like to say, as I pointed out during the Cardinals NLCS against the Washington Nationals, that the loop trolley has hit more cars than the Cardinals had hits in that series.
All right, Gardner.
Prove me wrong.
Speaking of hits, you'll hear some hits this Thursday night, 8:30 p.m. at Gastro Pit, 4916 Shaw Avenue. We've got a great lineup for Free Comedy Thursday this week. They've got barbecue specials starting at 10 o'clock as well. So come out, hang out, see Tom Brown, Kate Barton, and Will O'Donnell. Free Comedy Thursday, part of the Midcoast Comedy Series. Join us again Thursday, 8:30 on the Hill. Free to get in. It's going to be a heck of a time as usual. Loop trolley is extremely interesting to me. You've also covered a lot of different things lately. Gardner, you look like you're
Chomping at the bit.
Champing.
There was something I wanted to go back to real quick, because we mentioned it's been 5 years in professional broadcasting now. So where have those stops been?
So that started in Nashville as an associate producer, which kind of just helps other producers write newscasts, but was always really interested in doing the reporting aspect, because you get out of the building, you get to meet really interesting people, you get to cover a lot of different things. And so I spent about a year and a half as an associate producer in Nashville, and then made the jump to Huntsville, Alabama as a reporter. And then I've been here. It'll be 2 years in January here in St. Louis.
We've probably talked about it before, but I was with a comic from Huntsville over the weekend, and he just was, and I've heard this from touring, like big-time comics that go through there too. This is a delightful place to live because of NASA.
Yeah,
right.
absolutely.
Like so many smart people there, and there's all kinds of cool stuff to do. So many good things about Huntsville. Did you enjoy your time there?
I loved it. I absolutely loved it. It's it's remarkable that you in one city, usually we do a lot of the man on the street interviews, and in Huntsville you had really informed.
I was going to say, was it tough? Usually you set up shop like you do in my hometown of Farmington, Missouri. You set up shop in the Walmart parking lot, and you catch the first yokel that comes by, and you're like, what happened when the storm came through? And you're going to get some kind of, well, I was here and that. But I could see very measured responses like, well, what happens when a storm front comes
you see
in?
the cumulonimbus cloud.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, wow.
Whoops.
This is something. All right.
Exactly. No,
What is this, Scott Connell here?
It's a really neat community, and they have actually a really good comedy club down there.
They absolutely do.
Too.
No, and listen, privately, comics will give you their exact opinion about anywhere they go, and I've heard nothing but great things about
I actually
Huntsville.
saw Colin Jost at the Huntsville Comedy Club. He came through, and so it's a really neat city, and it's I loved it there, and there's a lot of like cool outdoor stuff around there too. They're kind of in the foothills of the Appalachians there, and so they have some cool trails and stuff.
Gardner, would you be nosing around bugging NASA all the time? You're like, what's really going on?
So my roommate
to go
in
to
Huntsville
space
was a NASA engineer.
Really?
Yeah, and it was a guy I actually knew from my childhood, and we were both moving to Huntsville around the same time, so it worked out really well. But he did. For one, it was great to have a NASA engineer as a roommate because he could fix anything.
That's amazing.
So, and it's just a cool anecdotal thing to say. But then, his specific role was to design some of the test material for the Mars rocket. So, so he actually had like really cool stories.
Has he heard anything about aliens?
Okay. I would.
If so, he hasn't been able to share with me.
Okay, if he does, let me know.
Yeah, you'll be the first to know.
I would appreciate that very much.
Sure.
I wanted to show a picture from one of your stops.
Okay.
And I don't know where this is.
Okay.
But I wanted to get some details on it.
Okay.
Because I saw you post this on the Twitter tweets.
Yeah.
What's going on here?
This is probably one of my favorite stories I've ever been able to do. So we spent 24 hours on the U.S. Dwight D. Eisenhower out in the Atlantic Ocean. So basically the Navy invited us out to kind of show what they do, on a daily basis on an aircraft carrier, and linked us up with some sailors that were from the Huntsville, Alabama area. So that's actually on the flight deck. You can see some of the fighter jets behind me there, and we were able to spend 24 hours on the aircraft carrier and show how the different sailors, what different jobs they had. So one guy worked in the nuclear core reactor that powers the ship and was a firefighter to make sure nothing bad ever happens. And, and that picture was from on the flight deck. So we got to be like from me to you of like when, these, giant fighter jets were taking off and taking off. So
they put you in one?
So didn't get to go in a fighter jet because there's usually single seaters, but we were one of the last civilian groups that got to do the tailhook landing, like off a Top Gun, where you actually come onto the deck and they catch the back wheel and stop you, and then also the cat launch off the back, like when you leave. They shoot you like 0 to 60 off the deck. They now do like more of a helicopter landing with civilians, but so they phased that out. But we were one of the last groups that got to do that way.
Fun.
So that was really cool.
Did they at least let you like direct one in or anything?
That would have been fun, but probably also
Sounds
like
illegal.
Yeah, that might not have ended well.
That's kind of where my mind goes, is to the illegalities.
But it is fascinating. Like they have such obviously a very coordinated system, and everybody is color coded on the ship. Like every day, like you basically, if you are in a certain part of the ship, all of your gear is a certain color. So like, but especially when you're out on the flight deck, that, green is part of air traffic control and like quality control and stuff like that. So it's kind of cool. It's all color coded like teams.
So do you think we could set it up where Chris gets to direct the loop trolley down the track? Would that be?
That's totally within my skill set. Yeah.
Right this way, trolley. Yeah. That's right. Come on through. I think we're on to something here, and that'd be a good photo opportunity.
I think so
well.
too.
That could raise funds. They could have local celebrities like yourself from KSDK come through, and you have the guest, coordinator for the day, and you work them on through.
It's like a guest director at the symphony.
Yeah,
sure,
I think that's good.
I'd do it. I think it'd be fun.
All right, let's set it up. Joe, give me a call. I'll be your agent for it. So, end of the day, you think Bi-State's going to take over the trolley, and do you think it'll end up being something that's enjoyed and used? The fact that the amount of money that's been put into it, thinking about it getting shut down, whenever I get past the laughing and joking about it, really is depressing.
Sure. So I think the county executive, Sam Page, has made it clear that if it's going to stay open, it has to be retooled in some way.
Right.
So I think that the county and other, interested parties are going to look at ways to make this work. I think it probably, if you look at successful models elsewhere, I think they're going to have to make it free in some capacity, and we just have to get used to the concept of it being part of the tax burden. But I don't know. They've definitely hurt some goodwill here in the community with how this has worked in the last year. So I don't know how that will go. I think it's also going to be interesting. The city will have a mayoral race in 2021, and I just don't. You haven't seen Mayor Cruson really say much about this at all, and I think that's probably on purpose. And and I know Tashara Jones, her likely challenger, has been very vocal against it. So I just don't know. I think it's a little bit of a nuclear reactive issue where people know that something has to be done, but it's not going to be the most popular thing to tackle.
Yeah,
so I don't know how this works.
When you couch it into just public transit and Bi-State and stuff like that, it's hard for people to accept that, just because we also know that you could be spending money elsewhere.
Right.
That's the rough part.
To make the public transit even better around town. Because I've talked on this
I
show.
think it comes down to, I interviewed the Loop Trolley Company president a few weeks ago, and I asked him directly, can you promise taxpayers that this will be the last time you ask for money?
I saw this.
And he said no. He said, and credit him for being honest, but he said, I cannot promise that. We know that this is what we need. Immediately, they're still sticking to we need a third train and we think we can make it work. But
I want them to prove us wrong.
Sure,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I'll say that
Everybody wants to see this succeed, and so you've seen the Loop Trolley kind of say that defensively of, this is just people are rooting against this, and I don't think that's true. I don't think anybody wants to see all these tax dollars go to waste.
You keep giving us reasons to poke fun.
Well,
like
it's content. Yeah. It's been great for content.
Sure.
Would it be good for Sweeps Week?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, well, and actually, I think we've discussed before how sweeps maybe doesn't really exist anymore.
I like
Sure.
saying
It does and
because-
it doesn't. It does and it doesn't. Yeah.
And maybe how it's still perceived, I guess.
Sure.
And then the ratings are just done a little differently.
Sure.
in
Sure.
how you
Sure.
get
Sure.
things out.
That's very true.
And I've always joked that, you can tell it was sweeps whenever the earthquake preparedness stories were coming out, especially in this area. That was always the thing.
Right.
And I think it's true. But yesterday could have really been something if it is a sweeps thing, because Chris, you go from Snowmageddon.
Oh my
number one,
gosh, big time.
to begin with,
Uh-huh.
at night into literally Armageddon,
right.
some would say.
Yes.
Get the Roughnecks ready.
Yes.
Because you have the weather. Weather gets ratings, everyone. Weather gets ratings.
Sure.
And
It's appointment television.
And then you have a meteor.
Meteor.
Mm-hmm.
Meteor.
I'm
I'm gonna need you to visit the FBI building today, Mr.
Yeah.
Fly through the St. Louis area. We have this shot. We showed it in the first hour. This is the art shot of the meteor. And this is how the movie begins.
Directed by Chris.
Yeah.
Next is the invasion. And,
So how is covering something in the news yesterday where you go from Snowmageddon to Armageddon? How is that?
I tell you, it was so they had me assigned yesterday to keeping an eye on road conditions on 70, but I was so fascinated by the meteor thing. It was a struggle to stay focused because that all
really?
kind of happened right around 9 o'clock too. So we hit
Yeah.
the road on 70 trying to just kind of keep an eye on where were bad spots and that kind of thing for 10. But I my head was in my phone because that's
Yeah.
fascinating to watch. And then Twitter just had so much fun with it too.
Yeah.
I mean, the people who said it to Gloria, that was good. I felt like a true St. Louisan when I got the reference that it was Becky's carpet ride.
Yes!
So I
pretty
feel like
funny.
I'm an adopted.
Queen of carpets.
Exactly.
That's
Exactly.
fantastic. I look forward
A
to
true
seeing.
son. A true son.
Yes, I look forward to seeing what kind of alien-human hybrids come from this in the next 9 months.
I mean, we all know what the meteor really is.
Mm-hmm.
And when first contact is revealed, then that's going to be an even bigger story, and we'll all be here for
But
it.
it is really funny too, of being in a newsroom when you have the early reports of people calling out, "I saw a big flash of light." You're thinking, sure you did, and then you just see more and more videos oh, okay, never mind,
all right, yeah.
because working in a newsroom, you would probably, maybe you wouldn't be surprised of the the different tales you hear sometimes of that kind of stuff. So everybody's kind of oh, I wonder what that is, wink, wink, and then we see Twitter just blow up, oh, okay, never mind.
I was telling Chris in the first hour, my parents live out in Fallon, Missouri, and that's where I grew up. And I didn't realize this was happening. I was reading something else at the time. And people started texting me, and then I saw a few tweets directed my way, and I'm like, oh, what the hell's going on? So I called my parents, and I call my mom's phone, and my dad answers, and I'm like, hey, did your house shake out there? He's like, yeah, I don't know what it was. Oh, does that concern you? He's like, oh, I don't know what it was. If you find out, call your mom, let her know. I love you, Dad. Bye. It's
Criminal Minds is on.
I think my dad was watching The Voice or something like that.
Yeah.
And so
What
I'm
if
just
we-
he doesn't even care that this is happening to him around. If this is the big one, if we get to the earthquake, then what the hell's he going to do?
Right.
Not miss
Call
quality.
me later.
network
The bridges are
programming.
down. We can't even get to you. Don't worry.
Now, what do we do when we find out this is a publicity stunt for a new Star Wars release?
Well, this is just
That's Disney.
Disney Plus. Disney Plus
has
today.
been launched. A meteoric rise.
Well, remember what the Disney whenever it would end when they do they show the castle and all that in the
Yeah.
movies, and
Yeah.
the little thing goes across
It's true.
the sky.
That'd be on brand.
and then
So
they
this is
remind
this is
everyone
a Disney Plus viral marketing
they
idea.
chose St. Louis because Walt Disney considered St. Louis for Walt Disney World
Disney
and
World at one
before he went
point.
to Orlando.
I don't think I knew that.
It all connects.
Oh, look into that
Oh,
story.
you
Okay.
say you're from here.
I don't. To be clear.
That's good.
I don't
That's
have
good.
a high school,
That's
so
good.
yeah. I
But
can't answer that
speaking
question.
of
Is that fun? I
stories-
grew up an hour south, and I don't even play the high school game, so
Oh,
it's
there you
fun
go.
to sit on the outside.
We
of
should
that.
mention it because I said that is a weird story to look into when you look into all the details of that one. And
About
Chris,
Walt not choosing St. Louis.
yeah, and how all that went down. But Chris might be the one to have an outside look at it and tell that story, and I'll say why he's the one to tell that story. He got an award.
Yeah. I did.
And what was that award?
So it was just kind of within a workplace type thing, but my peers named me Storyteller of the Year, which was pretty cool. So
wow.
yeah,
and actually,
yeah.
I'll say this too. I was sitting next to Frank Cusimano the other night at the Billikens game for their home opener last week.
Do you have your press credential with you?
It's in my bag.
Oh, okay.
Do you know who Red Panda is?
Yeah.
My credential doesn't even say where I work. It says Red Panda Fan Club. They put it on there for me now. Because I've developed a relationship with Red Panda, and I'm a big fan.
And you think it's weird I tweet at a female MMA fighter once in a while?
Hey, Red Panda is an international treasure.
Okay.
But Frank and I were sitting there for a little bit, debating politics as usual, back and forth. And then I said, hey, that Chris Davis, I really like him. I think he's very good at what he does. And he's a joy to have on. He's like, yeah, he's great. He even said,
Did he say he's terrific?
He's terrific. He's like, he's a terrific storyteller.
Ah.
So he brought that up, and I wanted to let you know, kind of unsolicited there. I
No, that's
at least
nice.
brought your name up.
Yeah.
But Frank volunteered that information.
Frank's just saying that because I usually have to help him with his computer about once a week. But it's a very nice compliment.
He even mentioned to me he might unblock me on Twitter soon.
He'll have to let
but
his
the
radio
problem
producer
is
know.
that he doesn't know how to unblock me
Right.
once
Yeah,
he's done
that's
it.
the
So
issue.
completely understand it.
But I, and I haven't quite leveraged this very well yet. But I have noticed that a lot of people that routinely help him in the newsroom also tend to get chemoles. So I need to to start withholding a little bit. Be like, I'm a little hungry.
By the way,
Frank.
I didn't see his piece the other day, but I only saw a picture. Can you tell me what he was doing when he was doing this?
I need to know. I need to know too. This is a problem.
So he was doing a commentary on all of the local high schools that have been busted this year for dressing up the wrong player and playing an ineligible player. So he was making the analogy of it would be like if Tegna, our parent company, suspended him from the air, but he showed up on air as different characters, not actually as Frank Cusimano. But I got to tell you, I was just around the corner when he was shooting this, and I just walked by. I'm sorry. We actually, it wasn't that day. There's another day that Frank also dressed up in like a bunch of different jerseys for a story he worked on.
Okay.
And Sam Page, the county executive, was walking through for a tour. And so I just I was like, Mr. County Executive, before you round the corner, just know that Frank's in like a University of Miami like basketball jersey. This is pretty typical here at 5 on your side.
Wardrobe must hate him.
It's like, Frank, I think he went to like one of the like costume stores after Halloween and got some discounted
Put
stuff.
that back up. So let's come up with the generic names for these. You have the Bobby Valentine.
Yeah.
You got the Moonrise Kingdom. And then the Boondock Saints over there.
Yeah, that could work.
Yeah, I think that's good. All right.
Yeah, we got them all.
Okay.
Well done, Chris.
Yeah, so congrats on that award.
Thank you.
That's fantastic. I
Appreciate
was
that.
trying to think of a weird way to incorporate the St. Louis Rock Band Story of the Year, like they had them there playing for you for Storyteller of the Year, but I don't know. Maybe that's a little bit of a stretch. Gardner?
Another thing with the Meteor, and I think this ties into something you have coming up too on KSDK. We showed the arch view that someone got from an Earth cam, but there's this one too. It's a Nest video. So it's the doorbell security camera that someone got a shot of the meteor, as you don't see me doing the quotes around it.
Thank you.
But someone got one of these too. Does this change anything with a story that you might be doing here soon?
It doesn't necessarily change anything,
Okay.
but I will say I think it does go to show just how popular these are. Some market research shows that 25% of people either already own a doorbell camera or plan to get one in the next year. So they are like surging in popularity. Tomorrow night we're going to do a story on Ring, which has kind of emerged as one of the really popular doorbell cameras, and it's owned by Amazon. There have been new privacy concerns that have been risen from sometimes how their system works. So if you use the Ring doorbell camera, there's a companion app called Neighbors, and you can join Neighbors now even if you don't have an Amazon or Ring product. But it kind of works a little bit like Nextdoor. It's kind of like a crime, social media app where people can post if there are different issues in their neighborhood. If you post any of your doorbell camera video to that site, then both Amazon and actually some local police departments have full access to use that video without having to ask for your permission. So St. Louis County is actually one of 400 police departments across the country that has partnered with Amazon on this. And so a lot of it is, and they say this is a game changer for them because it saves them from having to knock on 30 doors to try to find a lot of the surveillance video. But there's a portal on there that they can actually set like a little range on a map and see every single Ring camera that's in that area, and then they can send out a kind of a mass request for, do you have surveillance video of this particular crime?
Right.
And so Amazon has said, oh look, you can say yes or no whether you want that video used. If you say yes, they get the video, no questions asked, that's fine. If you say no though, then St. Louis County as a police department obviously has the power to go around and subpoena that video themselves. So some privacy experts have said, it's the illusion of choice that, you can say yes or no. And St. Louis County has told us in the story that, they're only going to subpoena stuff for really serious crimes, and they feel like that's acceptable because,
like being gay.
Yeah.
Pardon me. Different story.
Different story. Yeah. Yes. But, so yeah, I mean, so there's the peg on that, and then also we take a look at the user agreement that nobody ever reads on anything because it's just long and legalese.
Yeah.
But in that user agreement with
Scroll,
Amazon,
check, accept.
sure,
Right.
and we all do it every single. I don't
my
think even lawyers themselves probably read it.
I'm actually not allowed to give blood unless Apple consents for me. Because of that.
Inside, deep within that user agreement, you can give you cede all access to your video to Amazon to use as they wish. So there have been some documented situations across the country where people happen to see something that happened on their doorbell camera on a Ring ad, and they don't have to necessarily ask you for permission. Now, we reached out to Amazon for the story, and they say, oh, well, we do ask for permission, but if they don't get back to us within a certain time, we may just blur their face and still use the video anyway. But you give them control to use it for a social media post, for whatever, and they don't necessarily have to ask
Some
you.
funny things happen on some of those videos, too.
They do.
They
do.
for sure. Think
Like meteors, or like,
Yeah.
it's,
a couple of cocktails trying to get the door open. That could be an issue. Now,
I remember a video like a guy with a box on his head trying to rob or something like that.
Sure.
And something funny happened and he screwed everything up.
and this story will be on KSDK tomorrow evening.
It will be. It'll be
Okay.
tomorrow night at 10.
Tune in for that, and also follow Chris on his Twitter for all these updates as well. Do you feel like this will lead more? Here's how I feel. I think we're all just going to go with what's the most convenient.
Sure.
What's the most simple? Will this curtail some purchasing? Will it turn to more private stuff? Because if you just have a camera set up, you can offload it to your own thing, and you can go smaller. Maybe it doesn't have the capabilities or pricing that Ring does. But what do you think is going to be what would you predict the outcome of this to be with the public?
I don't know, because some people may watch this. Some people may be in a particular area that does have, a lot of crime. And if you're wanting to help police solve these crimes, you may look at this as, I'm going to buy a Ring because I can be part of this kind of crime camera network and help them solve a lot of cases. I think really the impetus behind the story is to let people know that this is a thing.
A lot of people probably don't realize
Right,
it, even though
exactly.
it's technically their fault for not. I mean,
Sure.
for not reading the fine print, which no one does.
Right, exactly. But so Amazon, for whatever you may think of them, in a larger scheme of things, they have a lot of products that people love to use, and so I would not predict. I have no way of predicting of how that might be perceived, but I think it's just I think also maybe it's a generational thing. Like I think if you're younger, you're used to the social media age where people know what you look like and know what you do and that kind of thing, and so but there's some people that are very fiercely wanting to be private as much as they can, and so that may be something that prevents them from doing that. But I would be curious if Google and Amazon are kind of battling for tech control. I would assume that Google and
world control.
that too. I mean, so I would not be surprised if Nest, Google's version of that, does some sort of police partnership at some point too. And from Amazon, it's kind of smart because the police are helping you sell your product in a way. And they give, there are certain situations where Amazon, and I think it even happened in St. Louis County, where they'll give a big bulk of those cameras for discounted rate to county to be able to give them to people so that their system is more complete. So it's kind of a symbiotic thing where they may help them sell that product too.
I just see, do you see privacy becoming bigger and bigger in the news as of late?
I think so.
And not only with this story, what you're doing too, but add on to it, and I don't know all the particulars of it, but like I do remember reading about a company looking to come into St. Louis that maybe had already done some testing, but then a private company with air surveillance of things going on around the city that people are questioning as well.
Sure. And I do think you can see some examples of where it is causing people to change their tune to a degree. You know, I mean, you see where Facebook has really tried to up the options that you have on what you share. You see Apple has been sharing on your phone with this latest update of who's tracking your location and you having more control over which apps are tracking your location. So I do think some part of that conversation is getting through to some of these tech companies that we don't want to just be completely surveilled, you know, and listen, you know, the audio being listened to with Alexa and, you know, all that kind of stuff too. So
kind of accepted that.
Yeah. No, I think that's the point though. It's kind of that classic fine line of, you know, convenience versus, you know, privacy type of thing. So I don't know. It's interesting though.
There's a balance, and we're trying to navigate that. I guess.
Yes, absolutely.
Gardner, does Chris Davis of KSDK 5 on your side reporting sway you? Do you go, see, if you're purchasing something for your house, do you thumb over the Ring app?
I don't probably.
Like if you're gonna get it, you have to get something.
Yeah, I'm in an apartment and in a building, so I don't really. That's the life I choose to lead.
Yeah,
and I'm forced to in some ways. But if I were to go house route, I'd probably still go with the. Like I said, I'm accepting of what I deal with Alexa, or knowing what the possibilities might be, because I've got some hillbilly blood in me. So I don't trust easily. I don't trust authority easily at times. It's tough for me at times. So even with that, I'm accepting of certain things to a degree.
Sure.
As long as I know that, that's all I think that's all people really, hey, look, don't BS me with it. Don't try and make me sidestep or try to sidestep me with some of your user agreements and what's going on. Let me know what I'm getting into, and then I think people just want to know what they're getting into. Sure. They want to be able to have some level of trust, and that's what I think.
And to their credit, I will say this too. Amazon's PR team has been really easy to work with for this story, because you never, I don't know, there have definitely been stories I've done before where corporations have kind of tried to do the old-fashioned, well, is this really a story? Should you be spending your time on this? And they answered.
That's my favorite. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
God,
no. And then which when has that ever worked? But okay. But that aside, Amazon answered every single question we asked them. They did it in a very expedient fashion. So at least they're willing to. And they're willing to answer that kind of stuff. That hasn't always been the case.
Yeah,
so.
and that can be appreciative, willingness to inform.
Sure.
Sure,
and once again, I think it should be said that and we talk about this in the story, that this police department say this is a game changer. It saves them from spending a whole afternoon trying to canvass an area to see where there might be a surveillance camera and be able to get to that quicker. And and then the other thing that St. Louis County said that I think is very true is, witness statements can vary a lot. People think they remember certain things, or that some things embedded in their mind that maybe didn't actually happen, but it's hard to argue with what's on video. So,
and if these were around, as I said to you guys off the air, if these were around, 5 years ago, as popular as they are now, we might have caught Pam Hupp sooner. That's all. Might have had more evidence then.
It would have.
They tried
all along.
It would have added to Dateline for sure.
Keith
all
would have had
along, the fox was already in the nest.
Ring, ring.
There was a ring, but nobody was home.
And that's how you do a Dateline episode.
Yes, there it is. That was a little bit better.
I love Keith Morris.
Oh, he's the best.
Great.
We got to get him for an interview with you, Gardner.
I tried.
Did they deny it officially?
They couldn't. Keith didn't have time to get it done. When they were doing,
Yeah.
they did their Dateline season premiere, and it was right after the podcast launch with Pam Hupp as well.
Mm-hmm.
I was in touch with them, and we had a back and forth for about 4 days, but it just didn't work out.
Yeah, I was really hoping he would come by the station since we're an NBC affiliate.
And
and it's kind of been a symbiotic relationship between NBC and us on covering this.
Well, what a weird thing.
But Keith didn't have time to come by the station either, because gosh.
If he does at any point, you have to let me know.
I will. I will.
And just let him know I'm coming by to fanboy out.
Okay. Yeah, it's nice to go ahead and say that.
I have a member of my dream team, one of my lawyers. worked at the firm that Joel Schwartz, who was Russ Faria's attorney, worked at a firm with him. And Dateline, this was several years ago, and Keith came by her office, and she said she was turning, and she got bumped, and it was Keith Morrison. And he apologized and said, "I'm sorry." And she said he even held out his hand and goes, "I'm Keith Morrison." And I'm like, "Ah, damn you! That's what I want to have happen."
Who else can we add to that list? We'll just stick with NBC. Do you have anybody else on your list there, Davis? People you want to meet?
I mean, Lester seems like a cool guy.
Sure.
I would say that. But
Anyone that's hit a certain level, like if somebody like you, I would expect you
Sure.
to appreciate what they've done.
I don't know if anybody matches. Keith is
He's your
just
guy.
Keith. Yeah, I mean, he has his own style to him, and I don't know. He just has a gravitas to it too. He could literally read the phone book, and I think I'd be interested. So,
Right.
You know,
Everything seems so just in his. It's so in his style or flow. I'm sure it's not all character, but at this point in his career, he probably has become what he was striving.
I was about to
be.
say, I would love to just sit in like a meeting where he'd be like, "I answered the email yesterday and said I would
Right.
bring the chicken marsala to the potluck." Like I that's what I envisioned at least.
I want to take a visit to New York and see if they'll just let me sit there as they write their script.
Sure,
I want to see how that sausage is made.
sure.
That's what I'm like. And then look, I can have puns, and I think I can be creative in a way at times.
Is that how we lose you?
I would just like to maybe get one line in.
Sure.
Can I just write one line for you?
And you know, at the network level, I think a lot of times you have a lot of producers that write that, but I think that is so unequivocally Keith's style that his imprint is very firmly on his stories.
Yeah.
You know,
I'd say so.
or he's worked with a producer long enough that they just kind of know
They
his
work
style
off each
too.
other
But
well, yeah.
Yeah, but Keith is Keith, and that's pretty cool.
Very exciting. Chris Davis, anything else we need to know that you wanted to break live on We Are Live? I mean, is there anybody going to jail we should know about? Is there anybody?
Yeah, you haven't had a
That's,
political scandal in a few months now.
Yeah.
It's
Oh, man.
Yeah.
After the year you've had.
years
Oh,
you've had.
my
Yeah,
gosh.
yeah. No, I mean we had a pretty rapid succession here in the area of Governor Greitens and then Steve Stanger.
Well, the way it's
So-
looking, Stanger's probably going to do a really good job cleaning up his cell, and he'll be out by the end of the month.
Yeah, it seems like every time the Post Dispatch posts a new article, it's been shortened a little bit more and
he
more.
finished
And I
his
don't-
dinner. Oh,
I don't understand
Mr.
that.
Stingy lost 3 years because he ate all his food. It's so funny how they treat that.
Well, I saw that he was like, I guess part of his argument was that he was claiming to be an alcoholic. And
Okay.
if that's the case, I hope you get help because I myself am recovering and 6 years sober now. But if you're using that, that's offensive to my people.
Right.
Sure.
But I looked at where he's staying, looked at some pictures, did some reading up on.
Nicer than
I
your
don't know why
apartment.
you might not want to leave.
Sure. I mean,
Right.
isn't it a converted school
Yeah.
or something like
It's
that?
on the Mississippi River on the border of Nebraska. They have actually dammed off in one area to make like a lake and conservation
They still have the
area.
Foursquare courts set up and everything.
It looks nice. I've always wanted to go to South Dakota. I'm going to go there next summer with my dad.
We're making buffalo jerky this weekend.
Maybe I should. Maybe I'll on my way there. I'll see if I can stop by. Hey, Steve, I want to see what this looks nice from what I've seen.
I've gotten into artisanal cheeses. It's a good time.
I'm very curious what his second act will be, and is that one of a
Consultant.
Well, isn't it when you go like this, and we've seen
Because he
Jeff
didn't roll
Smith.
on somebody that's going to take care of him when he gets
I was
out.
going to say Jeff Smith is a good.
I mean,
yeah,
book is the first thing you think of, right?
right.
All right, is book the route he goes, or is it some other way? I don't know.
Yeah.
But book is what you think of first, because I'm trying to think of what other people have done besides book.
Right. Book is usually the first step.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because then it launches you into other things as well.
Right.
Like in this instance, maybe you become, like Chris said, a consultant. Maybe the book
Yeah.
launches you into softening that image some, and then people are more accepting of you once again, and you can at least, maybe you're not going for elected office, but you're at least consulting or involved or advising or doing
Sure.
whatever in policy.
Well, Jeff Smith was the first call that we made when that sentence was handed down, because he really is the closest
Yeah.
equivalent of more of a what you would call a white collar crime, and someone who went from politics to prison is just obviously it's becoming more and more of a pipeline in recent years, but like
There's like
especially
a
in our
AAA
area
system at this point.
What's 2020 got in store?
Yeah. So, but yeah, so it would be interesting to see if he would take the similar route, or if that kind of corner is taken by Jeff already. If because he has kind of become the default. Here's what we can talk about. And to be clear, obviously his is a memoir. His book is a memoir on what happened, but it also has a lot of criminal justice reform, elements to it. I wonder if that would be what Stenger would do as well. I don't know.
Do you think he'll do a interview while in prison?
I don't want to speak out of turn. I think we have tried to do that, and perhaps the jail has put the brakes on that. It all kind of depends on what facility you're in, whether they'll facilitate that. But
maybe it takes more towards the end of it,
right?
When he's in like a halfway house, I'm sure that'll be a.
Can you get paid while you're in prison to do interviews?
We don't pay anyway, so
no, I figured that. But I was gonna say if he could save it, like
why are you gonna get it sponsored?
If he's I mean, you know me. If there's $1 to squeeze.
We work differently than with your journalistic integrity.
Sure, no. I understand.
They have different ways of doing things.
Yeah,
at KSDK.
a more respectable way. I get it. It's fine.
I'll just get it funded and go get the damn thing done. You want to see this? Pay for it. Let's get it going. A couple comments. People very much enjoying Chris on here, and you guys can check out that story that Chris has prepared for tomorrow night, again on KSDK at 10 o'clock. And be sure to follow Chris at Chris Davis KSDK on Twitter.
At Twitter, it's Chris Davis MMJ.
MMJ. I forgot you're multimedia journalist.
Yes, it's one of your favorite things.
It is my favorite. Tom in the comments says Chris looks like if I actually used my journalism degree. This is high praise.
That's great.
It certainly is. And Matt is asking if we should make it be pen pals with Steve Stenger. That could be a good segment. We could read those.
Actually, I've tried that before with a certain person that was in prison.
Oh, really?
I wrote a letter. I tried catfishing.
What radio show?
Gosh, what radio show was it? The X Factor at the time?
What's the X Factor?
It was me and my old roommate, Brendan Weesey.
Voice of the
who just got to call a Tigers game on the radio, Missouri Tigers basketball game on the radio. I wrote as a 9-year-old New England Patriots fan to Aaron Hernandez.
Oh, no.
Trying to get a response, and I didn't get one. So I've tried it before, but should we try catfishing? Maybe we shouldn't be talking about this.
Okay, especially with a credible MMJ in
Sorry,
studio.
Chris, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
KSDK, I'm sorry. This is all on me.
Well, go ahead, Gardner.
I had one final thing.
Yeah.
One other thing in the news to me is the freeholders and what's going on there.
It starts today.
Okay, so are they a thing? What is it right now?
So it's that is a weird thing right now because the city appointees have not been added yet.
Right.
So last week at County Council, Sam Page asked his appointees to the Board of Freeholders to not really tackle anything significant right off the bat until the city can get their appointees on. And that's a weird situation too. They're in this weird impasse of legislatively, and we don't have to get into the weeds on it, but basically the mayor's like, these are my nominees, pick the ones that you like, and the Board of Aldermen well, we don't like all of your nominees, so fix your list. And they're both kind of at this weird impasse. But it is significant, and the name itself makes you almost want to take a nap, but it really could. People, are obviously very in tune to this with Better Together. One of their proposals could be to do a full city-county merger. I don't think that's likely just because that did obviously not go over very well last time either. So I think what's more likely is you could have a merged city and county police force or a metropolitan police force. You could see a merging of justice systems potentially. You could see, MSD, the sewer district, was created by a board of freeholders. So I think you could see, or I think maybe something that's much more likely is the city may rejoin the county and kind of undo that great divorce from the 1800s. But lots of different things that could happen. But they have, so officially, I think what's more significant is they have a year starting when they start. So they would have a year until next November, considering today at 10, I believe, is their first meeting.
So a year from today.
When they would.
from 1 minute ago.
Would be
Thank
when
you.
there you go.
Thank
would
you.
be when they would have to present their plan, and then it would go to the voters. for
Could
a full vote.
soccer bring us together?
Could.
They need a. The design looks nice. I just want a big structure. That's all.
Okay. All right. I get it.
I want a Brandenburg Gate type
Okay.
thing at one of the entrances.
All
A
right.
neoclassical structure to juxtapose itself with the clean, sharp look of the stadium.
There you go.
I think we've got it all figured out.
That's all.
Praise be to the meteor folks that have landed in our fair city. I welcome you, and I hope
Send the
things can be
aliens my
peaceful.
way. I can be your conduit.
Okay, we'll make that happen.
I can be your ambassador.
At Chris Davis MMJ on Twitter, give him a follow. That's going to be you're going to have a busy couple weeks ahead. You're always
Yep.
busy with this stuff, man. It never ends.
The fun never ends, but it is
doesn't.
interesting. So.
Well, we certainly appreciate it, Chris. Always a pleasure, my friend.